Welcome, everybody, to the next episode of Chiefs Focus First and 10 Live, here with JP, Caleb, and Quentin. What's up, guys?
Doing pretty good. How are you guys doing?
Just another solid Chiefs win, and there's a lot to take away from this game, but a whole lot of benefits or a whole lot of good things to take away from this game.
Definitely. I mean, the defense played again phenomenally. Shut down a team that runs averaged 146.5 yards a game to basically, I think, 46 total. And most of those came in the second half. In the first half, I think they had a total of 6 yards. They just dominated really everywhere. And honestly, strangely enough, it was McDuffie's first 2 passes he allowed in his career was today. But
he did a good job, though. I would say as a cornerback, rookie, he did a great job still trying to fight against that every single play.
Yeah, I mean,
what he was doing was phenomenal.
There was so much that went on today. I mean, it was insane. I mean, honestly, Mahomes broke Dan Marino's record today. The Chiefs are now 24-0 in November and December.
That's pretty good.
A record as well. Nobody's
pretty good. That. I know October's always kind of been a rough month for the Chiefs, but they looks like they figured it out, so that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, nobody in the history of the NFL has won 24 straight games in those 2 months combined. That's pretty strong. And again, the defense held a team to under 20 points.
I mean, this just shows. I mean, this is what we talk about. The Chiefs are strong coming off. They fall sort of into that lull out to about the midpoint, and then they're so strong to help finish up the year. I mean, if you're you start strong, you finish strong. If you're gonna have sort of a lull in the season, the beginning of the second half is end of the first half, beginning of the second half is where you want it, and we're starting to really figure out who we are in terms of an offense, and especially in terms of a defense. You brought up how well this defense played, and we'll get into some specifics here in a second, but this is what Steve Spagnuolo defenses do. They start off a little slow. They tend to anyways, and they really start to pick it up here. And this defense just hasn't had that really slow start we've seen in the past. And we said this, they're just going to continue to get better. Let's talk about McDuffie for a second. McDuffie, once again, he had a couple pass breakups. He had a great pass breakup down the sideline on the left sideline. And he did it's a perfect play because you're supposed to use the sideline as an extra defender where that the wide receiver, can't step out of bounds and touch the ball. So you sort of use your leverage to sort of oomph the wide receiver outside and get your arm in there and be at a pass breakup. And that's exactly what he did. It was perfect coverage, and that's the kind of stuff we're going to continue to see from McDuffie. Then he might eventually become a more talked about draft pick than George Karlaftis.
I think he probably already is.
I think you have a great point there too, because when you look at what McDuffie's been able to do before he got injured, and even after, he hasn't really skipped a beat. And when the Chiefs play the Bills, whenever that happens in the playoffs, and when they have Willie Gay and McDuffie there, it's going to be a whole different ball game. So I think the Chiefs are in a phenomenal spot with the defense looking forward. They had, 5-6 sacks on the day. I mean, that's pretty good compared to what we see last season, the season before.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're averaging – I don't know how many sacks they're at now, but I know they're really close to what they had the entire season last year. So it just goes to show you the differences in what we've done is not just as a scheme standpoint or packages, but also building packages within or for the players that you have. The players, we've got a lot of first-year starters, a lot of rookies on that field that are doing phenomenal job. With the exception of Snead today, really, he only had one bad play. And really, I mean, honestly, that was a great move. Great stutter.
It was a great route by Kirk.
It was a great route, yeah. So I can't really fault him for that. Honestly, there were some iffy calls with the refs. A lot of people were pissed off, including myself. I think that was just probably third worst call I've seen in a long time. Juju is now in. By the way, for everybody who wants to know, he's in concussion protocol. He did not. Somebody on Twitter decided to say he put his hands in that position that made him look like he had, I guess, neuropathy or whatever you want to call it.
I think Tua had.
Yeah, like Tua had. He did not put his hands in that position. All he was doing was holding his hands up because his head was ringing I mean, that's kind of normal. It's not like he was all twisted up. When you have that, your actual joints bend in a direction that you can't normally do. And sometimes your joints will break because of what he did not have that. He was not in that position. So whoever posted that, stop posting things like that because it's actually stupid. I'm sorry, but it is. Don't post things if you don't know. I immediately made a phone call. They said he was somewhat back to normal when he got into the locker room. It took him a little while to get his bearings back. Had a headache. Definitely had a concussion, but he's back to his old self before the third quarter was even over. So
exactly,
he's going to be back most likely by next week. And
I mean, I hope he is. The thing that I have frustrations with is that I understand you want defenses to play, but it comes to a point where you see one team is just going out there to play dirty, and that's what we kind of saw with the Vikings. Yeah, I mean, and it just kind of angered me too. This is the second time we've seen someone in the Kansas City sports media market back the refs when there's been an egregiously terrible call. And to see that,
this time,
I'm not getting into it, but it's pretty bad. This is the second time we've seen it.
Same guy?
No, this is someone else completely different. But it's like there comes to a point where it's like, what are the specific parameters are going to happen? Because it's like Mahomes can get knocked all over and they don't call a penalty. But the second you push Tom Brady or anyone else down, it's a penalty. And like that pin on Juju, I don't understand why they picked it up. The second one, I guess you can make a reason why it was more the shoulder. But then again, it's still like the same guy has done crazy things. So honestly, though, at the end of the day, I mean, Chiefs win. I just hope Juju can recover. But here's one pause I can take from this game. Prince Wangoho, I think that's how I pronounce his name, PWT. PTW. He played for the injured. Wiley did a really, really, really great job.
Yeah, he did a great job. And that was that exact thing that we talked about, the weak link that I've been bringing up. When that weak link got fixed, today that chain was a lot stronger. And Mahomes was not nearly as pressured. He wasn't, I mean, hell, even with this almost sack that he got, at least he picked up a yard on it. Where I don't think that would have happened if Wiley would have been in the game. And I don't think this game would have turned out the way it did offensively if Wiley would have been in the game the entire game. So it's just part of it. I don't know. It was one of those games where you get very frustrated, and when somebody picks up a flag, and then there was another one when Scantling got hit, and I thought, okay, that's if they don't call that one, and then they didn't call that one either. They picked the flag. So, and by the way, somebody else said that same hit was laid on another player, and it was called immediately.
The Vikings won.
Yeah, the Vikings won.
Nice.
That's what Derek's put in the chat. Yeah, we're all intermediate Vikings fans for the rest of the year. Let's
yes,
come on.
Yeah.
We gotta get the
awesome.
horn out.
So as much as I'm not like Kirk Cousins, I love you now. So, but yeah, it's kind of, to me, I think all the way these crews are calling things are just ridiculous. Again, in fact, like I said, another exact same play happened in another game, and they called it immediately. You got a guy that was definitely helmet to helmet, feet off the ground, which, I mean, I don't remember a time that in the modern era in the last 10 years that if you launch off of the ground and hit someone, that is automatically a penalty. It's called launching.
Well, it's like the rules are just, they're not, the referees just aren't consistent. And that's the one thing I've noticed. They just have not been consistent one bit.
Not at all.
So
we took advantage of it. So.
This is where having that sky judge would come in handy, right? So if, the refs were in sort of an awkward spot to not be able to see the Juju Smith-Schuster hit. But if you had that sky judge, he could see that. You would have, or if New York had the ability to call penalties like that, they could call in and say, hey, that was a helmet-to-helmet hit. In college, that's targeting, and that player gets ejected. Now the other one where MVS got hit, I mean that was shoulder pads that collided. It just looked worse because than it did because the Juju hit happened beforehand. But that Juju hit, I mean that's that's the stuff you want to eliminate from football. That's the stuff when you watch and you wince. And so you hate to see it. It's good to see Juju got up on his own and he was walking to the locker room. That's a good sign to be able to see him walk off on his own. And he'll be in the concussion protocol for the rest of the week. You know, we hope that he plays, but more importantly, you know, we hope for his health overall. And you know, I think that with McCole Hardman being out and then Juju Smith-Schuster going out, we got to see Kadarius Toney more.
Yes.
And man, that guy, I'm telling you right now,
He's a beast.
he reminds me of X Factor. That's who he reminds me
Dude,
of.
he is good.
The way his feet chop, and somehow he's able to, he can like skinny himself up and avoid guys getting a clean hand on him. So he can break some of those tackles, and it's really impressive what he's able to do. And man, I think that he's got a bright future here if he can continue to play like he did today, because he's only gonna get more involved in the offense. I tweeted this out. I was like, MVS and Kadarius Toney both have touchdowns today. This offense is only going to get more and more difficult.
Exactly.
Well, I tell you what, for somebody that stepped into an Andy Reid offense and played as well as he did today, just shows a lot. His intelligence, first of all, I mean, he's extremely intelligent. The way he sidelined that touchdown was phenomenal.
He just hobbled in. That was funny. He just like, I'm going to bounce.
Yeah.
I'm like, he's going to go out of bounds. Oh, no, never mind.
Yeah, he played hopscotch into the end zone, and I thought that
basically
was great. Yeah. But, you know, MVS got his first touchdown today, which was a long time coming. I don't know. Pacheco played out of his shoes. People can complain about it. I mean, I saw on Twitter immediately somebody complained about, oh, God, take him out of the game. Jesus. I mean, the guy has had one fumble in his career. One. Yeah,
I mean, those are going to happen. I mean, you obviously don't want it to happen in the playoff game, but to see that happen there, I mean, it wasn't a big deal because the defense showed up.
He took a shot. He took a helmet to the ball and a shot to the hip. So, I mean, you got to do what you can to, you know, avoid some of those fumbles, but stuff happens. You know, it's the NFL. Nobody's perfect, but
nobody's ever going to be perfect when it comes to this. We got some comments here. Josh Allen MVP, LMAO. That's true. We got Philip in. We got Derek in. We got Corey in. Chiefs Talk on the Rocks. You know, he said that was a slight troll on New York. Limp hopping into the end zone is probably right. You know, they've been looking at different scenarios for what to do with wide receivers and how to either improve them by adding players or moving players around to see where they're going to fit within this, you know, system. Right now, it looks like everybody's fitting in very well with the absence of McCole today. Everybody stepped up. The Chiefs are still leading the NFL in points scored. So
27, I think.
We're at 30 points a game average, so I'm not complaining. We may have dropped by a half a point or something because the last 2 weeks we've been under 30, but for the most part, we're outscoring everybody in the league. And our defense is doing exactly what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to keep people under 20, under 24, because if you can do that, you know we're going to score more than that. For the you know, there's a 98% probability we're going to score more than that. So just everybody should relax a little bit because we're doing pretty damn good.
I thought the defense did pretty well. I mean, yeah, the offense had their moments, but they were really consistent. And Pacheco, and I don't know if we want to – do we want to get into the Chiefs running back situation now, or do we want to wait until a little later in the show?
Let's do it now.
Okay. The one thing I noticed, and JP, you kind of confirms to me, and Quentin, you may agree with me with this, is that Pacheco has a starting job.
Yeah.
That's something I know I said at the beginning of the season where it's going to take a few weeks. We're looking similar to a Alvin Kamara versus Adrian Peterson situation that was in this New Orleans a couple years back. And I was kind of like, well, the way it looked like is we see, obviously, Kamara got the job a lot quicker, and Kamara didn't. And Pacheco didn't get the job as quickly, but we see now that he's basically taking us down the back, and Clyde got 3 plays on one series. Incomplete pass, incomplete pass. The second one, he really wasn't involved, and the other one was incomplete pass. I mean, he really didn't have much going on for him. So I don't know if they're going to try to phase him out, but it's not looking good for him moving forward at all.
I think that we talked about this either during the bye week or right beforehand, that, you know, the Chiefs tend to, what are you mixing up? What are you changing after the bye week? You have a week to do something and figure out how you can improve your offense or your defense with the guys you have. And I know it before the San Francisco game, they announced Pacheco as the starter, but I think this is really the game to show what the Chiefs offense wants to be in the run game. Because you don't have to run the ball a lot. You just have to be able to say, hey, if you're going to drop 8 guys into coverage, I can do a running back draw and get 6 yards on you. You have to respect the guy that I have. And Pacheco is a hard runner. He falls forward, and he's able to break a tackle and go through the line. Now, I've still got, Pacheco still has some areas to improve. He is missing some plays. I think sometimes he has a tendency to not follow his blockers and sort of cut too early. But I think Pacheco's the better of the two. And as the more and more he gets involved in the offense, the more comfortable Pacheco's going to get in the pass game. And personally, I think that's why they really wanted to keep Clyde as the number 1 guy, is because they saw what Clyde could do at LSU, and they wanted him to become sort of that pass catcher out of the backfield. But he just hasn't been able to be that guy. And I think they see Pacheco as, okay, we know he can run the ball. Let's see what we can do in the pass game. And I think over the next few weeks, he's going to continue to get more and more involved in the pass game. And we're going to continue to see this offense not depend on one guy as much as it has in the past, because more of these weapons are going to start to develop. And like I said earlier, this team is going to get harder and harder to defend, even though it's been the same group of guys.
So my question to you, Quentin, is this: do you think that they will then elevate Rojo and maybe have Clyde be on the practice squad or something?
No way.
You don't think that'll happen?
No, Rojo's
You don't think they're gonna check? You don't think? You think? I feel like they could use another power. I think they could still use another power runner to help a 1-2 punch.
No, and I think that, I would think that the Chiefs are going to turn towards more of a 2 running backfield, because I think 3 is just too many. Because with running backs, if you need to, especially running the ball, you can't just go out there, run the ball 3 times and expect to get big chunk plays. This isn't like a wide receiver where you can sort of scheme a catch for a wide receiver and use him to his maximum ability in a couple of plays. The run game is different. You have to run the ball a few times and to see what you got for the day. So if you pull up, trying to run the ball 6 times with Clyde and 4 times with Pacheco and getting McKinnon out, 4 routes in the game, I just don't think you're dividing it up too much. And if you want to switch out Ronald Jones with Clyde, I just think you're going to fall back into that same problem where you're not giving enough to one guy. You're not feeding that guy to be able to get going for the day. You need to be able to show for the one game, hey, if I want to, if you don't respect it, I can get 5 yards a carry. And that's not what you want, because, either the Chiefs are going to score on 13 plays in a touchdown, or we're going to go down and score 8 plays in a touchdown. And while you don't want to take the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands a lot, you still need to have the defense respect that run game. And we see why, because otherwise, if you don't run the ball, pass rushers will pin their ears back and just go after Mahomes.
I will say this. I'll have to disagree with that one, because they have told, we had a conversation, me and some people prior to the season, or maybe I was like around week 1, and they said that by week 6 or 7, Pacheco would be the starter. They tried to, I'm just going to say it, they were looking to find a new home for Clyde at one point. I don't think, I'm not going to rule out that they elevate Rojo. And the reason I say that is because if you've got a guy like Pacheco that runs as hard as he does, and the guy, again, he makes the ground hurt, and eventually he's going to get a little worn down, and you want another power back to step in and be able to handle that pressure and be able to handle that run. Clyde can't do it. He's ran the ball numerous times, been in the series after series after series, and he's not done his job. It is what it is. He's not the guy from LSU in our system. I don't think he's had now going on his 4th year to figure that out, and he's not it. And I think if they have the opportunity to bring up Rojo, they will. And Clyde will. You'll see his percentages drop as the season moves forward. I don't see him ever getting this. I don't see him getting his starting job back this year. So McKinnon's done a good job as far as that second back. with Pacheco, I should say, behind Pacheco. I just don't see it happening. I don't see Clyde. He won't be here next year, and I don't think he'll see much more playing time. He'll get his spurts, but he won't get nearly the playing time with the rest. And I can see Rojo being moved up. He wants to be moved up anyway. They were saving him for a reason, and I think this is the reason. They wanted to see what they had. They can't go to a 2 running back situation because we are a running back by committee team. You want a starter out there that's going to be able to run 15, 20, 25 times a game if you need it, depending on the defensive line you're going against. But Clyde's not that guy. Two today he dropped. When he was in there twice, and both times he dropped the ball.
I will argue one of them wasn't really his fault.
No, but still.
Rush got to Mahomes.
Yeah.
But I would say he only got 3 snaps. And
Yeah.
I feel like given him more opportunity, he would play a little better. But I mean,
he's had a ton of opportunities. I mean, that's the problem. Is he had a lot of opportunities, and he's not done that great, especially over the last year. I mean, he's just not done that well. He's got a great offensive line. He doesn't.
Well, I will say this: the offensive line was making holes today that they haven't made previously.
Well,
I know the Jacksonville Jaguars had a great defense.
They got a great defensive front, too.
And I feel like the offense, like you said, when we had PWT Prince, when it happened as we see is that they were just able to open a lot more holes, and the running game was a lot better. So I hope this is something that can continue moving forward because this is only going to help the run game with Pacheco. Because if they can continue that, hey, the Chiefs going to be a really, really great team. So I think it's in a really good spot.
By the way, Andy called 78% of the plays today.
That would make sense. I mean, the offense played really, really well.
Yep. So that kind of goes to what we've been talking about for a long time, and we'll just hopefully it continues and moves forward that way. But I could see Rojo getting moved up. I can. Pacheco proved enough today. McKinnon proved enough, and Clyde has not proved anything. He has not lived up to his LSU days. So between his injuries and the fact that he just doesn't think outside the box, I should say. I don't think he's gonna. He just doesn't fit within the system very well, in my opinion, and that happens. I mean, look, it was a first round draft pick that Veach really didn't want to lose on. They had a lot of money tied up in him, and they wanted to see if he could succeed. He didn't. He didn't make it in the system. It's just that simple. He should be playing a lot better than he is after this amount of time, especially with this offensive line, and he's just not.
What do you think, Quentin?
I understand where you're going, and I don't think it's impossible or unbelievable if the Chiefs end up pulling up Ronald Jones, right? They kept him on this team for a reason. They like his skill set, but I think that it's in the Chiefs. It's better for the Chiefs if they stick with 2 running backs, and that's McKinnon for the third down, and you stick with Pacheco for your run game, and then McKinnon, if it's first and 20 because of a holding penalty, well, you can bring McKinnon in because it's an obvious passing down.
Yeah.
So I just think that the Chiefs would be better off using 2 running backs instead of trying to do a 3-headed monster type deal, just because there's just not enough room and not enough time. Like today, Clyde had 2 targets and no receptions. So I just think it's not worth the effort in trying to get another guy involved in the offense at that position.
And it may be something to where they could possibly maybe do the 2 running back set and then bring in an extra defensive lineman to help in the rotation. That's something we see the Chiefs have done before. I mean, it's up in the air. I mean, we'll see what happens there.
Oh, by the way, the Bills have not scored a second-half touchdown since Week 6 against us. They have not scored a second-half touchdown. So I think the hype is starting to dwindle. And I know Allen is injured, which I don't think he should be playing right now anyway. But he came out like he was playing like he was fine. So, but he got hit. He got hurt. So it's one of those things. I don't know that they have the tenacity to be able to keep it up all season long. Into the playoffs and into the Super Bowl. In fact, our buddy Nick Wright had to have say, he said, reminder, the hype of of the Bills is what it is. He posted it on Twitter. I thought it was kind of funny. He went right after the Bills today, so not going to complain. He's right. I mean, here it is. The fact that the Vikings went on to win, and that is that was on 4th and 18, legitimately puts it in the running for the greatest catch ever. The catch that happened. Here it is. Despite accusation of bias and mocking / insults from the fellow media members, the committee, trademark, never believed in the Bills. Hype and consistency had them rated lower than other more impetuous power rankings. The last 8 days have been complete vindication. He's right.
Well, the Chiefs need to use this.
Absolutely right.
The Chiefs need to use this time period to continue to build their league, and they'll be okay. So, what do you guys think about Dunlap getting 100 sacks?
I'm proud of him. I mean, somebody. Hold on, Russ. What's Russ? Hey, Russettin from France. He says still we're going to play the Broncos defense, which is real. Well, yeah, but they lost today. So I agree with you. They're not a bad defense, but I'm not too concerned with them.
I mean, when your defense, your defense can only take you so far in 2022. This isn't the early 2000s or the 1985 where offenses now, the rules are built for the offense, and so if it comes down to a really good offense versus a really good defense in 2022, I'm going to take, all things being even, I'm going to take the offense.
Yeah.
Especially
all day long.
Especially when the other team's offense, you're surprised when their quarterback throws a touchdown in the game.
Well, not only that, when you got to take the offense when the defense is limited, or I don't know. After what we've seen today, the defense may not be limited. It just really depends on the rush you have that day. I mean, somebody can take a helmet shot and it'll all be okay for them. I don't know how they consider that not roughing or targeting or anything else for that matter, but they picked that flag up really fast. That's what was strange about it, is they picked that flag up almost immediately. It was almost like nobody had a conversation about it. They just picked it up. And to me, I think that was crap, but it is geared towards the offense. I mean, the defense, for the most part, doesn't have a chance to play depending on the team. And then you have offenses that play like the way they do. Oh, God. Here, Nick Wright is on a roll right now, man. I mean, he is on a roll. He's hurting me. Here, let's see what he says. Josh Allen's NFL career: year 1, bust ? Year 2, improvement. Year 3, huge leap, MVP candidate. Loses in the AFC Championship game to Mahomes. Year 4, MVP hype, mediocre regular season, 2 great playoff games. Loses in round 2 to Mahomes. Year 5, MVP and Super Bowl hype. Leads the NFL in interceptions. 3rd in AFC East. So that tells you everything you need to know. I mean, honestly, he doesn't pull any punches. I guess he's a Mahomes homer. There's no doubt about it. But he's not going to downplay everybody else's, team if they're good, or if they're doing everything right. I should say, the Bills aren't doing everything right now. It just is what it is.
What else did you guys notice from the game that you thought was really good?
Okay, so you talked about the 100 sacks. Obviously, that's a huge milestone. He's the 41st player in NFL history. To do that, they started keeping track of sacks in 1982, I believe. So, in the grand scheme of things, it's sort of a new stat, but still, it's impressive. And he's done that with 3 different teams. He started with the Bengals, went to Seattle for a few years, and is now here in Kansas City. So you can't say there's not a lot of excuses you could make for him being able to do that. It's a tremendous thing for him to do, and I got called out on Twitter by Caleb for my take. So
I didn't call you out. I just we were right. Oh, which one did I call you out for?
You said that, because I remember I said, part of the believe it or not was would he get his 100th sack, and I said that I feel like the Chiefs were going to get a lot of their pressure with some more linebacker and corner blitzes to try and confuse Trevor Lawrence, which I was right there, but
He did get his 100 sack.
He did
We
get
had
his
five.
100
I think
sack.
five
Got
or
half
six
a
on the
sack.
day too. So that
We
was
had
huge.
5 sacks on the day, and he got half a sack. So.
Well, I was adding you because I thought you said he was getting his 100 sack. I'm like, we're all right. That's what I meant by that.
To
Well-
be fair, I did want to say that, but then both of you guys went with yes, and I was like, well, I don't want all of mine to be, we all say the same thing. Where's the fun in that?
I
I'm just gonna
understand.
go with my gut from now on.
That's okay. That's okay. Hey, that's good though to see him do that. And what we're gonna see is that what we're gonna see as a whole is that if they can keep this up, they're gonna be able to do a lot more things on the defense. So I'm not really worried about that at all. I think they'll be fine.
Let's get to some of these comments here, and then get into our MVPs of the game here. I want to talk about
Carter's
what Carter Toplift said. Is CEH done after this year? Same question with McColl after Tony's coming out party today. So we've talked about the McColl thing a few times over the year, that no matter what McColl does for the rest of the year, he's not going to end up back in Kansas City, because if he plays really well, his contract's going to be too much for Kansas City to re-sign, or if McColl if he plays down, the Kansas City can just replace his production with somebody else. So I don't imagine McColl being back here in Kansas City. I think that's how you two feel. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, I mean, look. I am not a McColl hater by any means.
No, I think you can get his production with somebody else instead of re-signing him.
Yeah, I think that he's probably going to go to a team that fits his scheme a little bit better, his style a little bit better. Tony just kind of solidified the fact that there's guys that can step into this role and immediately make an impact, and he did that. As far as CEH, he's definitely. I do not believe he's coming back next year. And in fact, Carter, we just talked about this. I don't even know if he's going to play as a starter at all for the rest of the season. But
I mean, technically, he still has 1 year left on his contract after this year, so he could.
Fifth-year option.
He has 1 year left on the contract.
Well, this is his fourth season, isn't it?
He was drafted in 2020, so 2022. He's on the 2022 contract. He has 1 year left after this. So
is it the fifth-year option?
He was drafted a year after the McColl and Thornhill draft.
Yes.
So he has 1 more year next year. So in terms of him being done, he might still be on the roster this year, but what's his production going to be on this team? I'm not sure he's really going to contribute on this team from here on out.
And I don't think Andy's going to hold him back from going to another team that he may suit him better. Andy's not that type of guy to hang on to somebody just because. And they've given him 3.5 years, a little over 3.5 years to figure this out. And just not doing it. So
I mean, if you cut him before June 1st during the off season, you save a little less than $1 million.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to nickel and dime the cap, that could be something that could happen. But I don't see him in terms of being done. Maybe not like he's off the roster, but being someone you depend on or you look towards to become part of this offense. I don't think that he's going to be a significant part of this offense for the rest of his time in Kansas City.
I don't think so either. And the fact that Tony stepped up in a big way so quickly really kind of goes to show you that there's people out there that can pick up this scheme in a quick fashion. It's not easy to do. And Tony, they schemed up plays specifically for him, and he was able to capitalize on it. So with him learning the playbook and them scheming up plays for him, it's just going to open up bigger windows for him.
Well, and I tweeted this out on Friday. This is why you should follow me on Twitter. It's a shameless plug right there. Andy Reid said that they were adding more plays into the playbook for him today. So this was a game plan going into it that they wanted to get him involved early and often, and they did. And we see that. I'm telling you, I really do think he looks like X Factor. How fast his feet are and his ability to skinny post up and sort of avoid. People just can't seem to get a good hand on him. So it's like he breaks away from those arm tackles. So he's quick and nimbly. He can just sort of move his way through the blockers and avoid taking those big hits to where he can continue to get some yak. You guys want to get into your MVPs? We can start with the offense side of the ball.
All right, my offensive MVP, I'm gonna give it to Tony. And the reason why is because he played phenomenal. That hop into the end zone was pretty nice. He didn't go out of bounds. But to see him continually he only had he had some decent plays in the first half. We saw touchdowns, some different things there. But what kind of sold it for me is when he climbed the ladder and had that really good catch. I think at the third quarter, as the Chiefs were driving with their first time after the Jaguars took 9 minutes off the clock. I give him MVP because of just what he's able to do. He opens up the offense even more. And I think because of that, it's going to help the offense take a whole nother step than what we've seen in the past.
I'm going to give it to Juju because Juju had at the start of a great game. He's played very well, and he took a monster hit that took him out of the game. And thank God that he didn't have what everybody else thought he had, and it was just a concussion. And he's perfectly fine now as far as being normal and not having any trauma. He was actually that way during the third quarter or after the third quarter. So I'm going to give it to Juju. He took a hell of a hit, and he's going to be back next week more than likely. So
I really liked the way Tony played. I will give mine to Pacheco. The guy helped seal the game, and that's something here in Kansas City we've been waiting for so long, to be able to get a lead into the fourth quarter and to say, I'm going to give the ball to the running back, and, everybody here knows we're going to run the ball. We need one first down. Let's do it. Finish this game. I'm happy they didn't throw the ball on that last drive. They just ran the ball to seal the game out, and it's so great to see it. He ran for 82 yards today. He was just an efficient runner, and I'm happy to finally see maybe this offense is finding its ability to run the football because even though you have the best player in the league with Patrick Mahomes, you still need to be able to run the ball. And it's Pacheco's ability to somehow fall forward every time he gets hit and the effort that he gives, that's why I'm going to give my MVP to Pacheco.
Nice. Well, here's something. It says Corey just put this out. He said half the Chiefs players are going to get fined. In the post-game interview, they all called out the dirty hit on Juju and the refs and the league. They're pissed, and I don't blame them. I mean, if they get fined, they get fined. It's worth it in the long run to just get the word out because nobody ever says anything. Nobody says anything because they're so freaking scared of being fined.
Well, this is why I've been a big advocate of saying that the refs need to have press conferences at the game, in the game, just like the players, and they should be subjugated to fines as well. I mean, they're a part of the game. I mean, literally, some of the calls that they have made have really cost players their jobs and it cost teams wins, like we've seen happen multitude of times. So I think that's a start, is to get them to actually explain, not this, I'm going to type out my response. No, this needs to be a live press conference like something we're doing now so we can try to figure out what's going on. Because some of these calls are just terrible. And as a fan, it's not good for the game. So
what's Russ? He says, I love McCole. Please, guys, stop. What?
Speculating
about him and let him finish the season and stop the distraction. There's no speculation. This is what we're hearing, dude. I mean, these are things that we hear all the time. We've been hearing this, and they were looking for somebody else to fill in those shoes, and that's what they did. I love McCole. I don't have a problem with him, but I don't think he's coming back next year. He doesn't fit within the system as well as you would think, especially as well as he should right now. And I don't think he'll be back next year. He'll finish out the season. If he does well, that's great. I don't know what else I could say. I mean, it just sucks that he hasn't picked up the playbook as well as everybody else has. And I mean, you got a guy that just stepped on the field. He's been here for 2 weeks and he's killing it.
And I think also this is just what's going to happen in the Patrick Mahomes era, right? You're going to get a playmaker. There's going to be a lot of McCole Hardmans in this offense for the next decade. Guys are going to draft that are going to come up and they're going to be productive for this team. And the Chiefs are going to want to keep him around. And then the other teams, like maybe even the Jaguars, are going to have more free space in their cap room than the Chiefs are. And they're going to be able to outbid the Chiefs to keep a McCole Hardman around. I don't think any of us dislike McCole Hardman. I think he brings a extra element to the game. He's great as a punt returner. I mean, the guy's really talented. I just think that, when you think of it as a business, which is at this point what the Chiefs have to do, when you have a $500 million quarterback, you can't keep everybody around, and you have to make some tough decisions. So,
and that's kind of why we. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Quentin, go ahead.
No, you're good.
I was going to add to that and just say that's kind of what we see with the issue that came with buying Pringle to Marcus Robinson. I mean, they're not
100%.
doing much for the team. You got to move on. And that Pringle had his time, but you kind of have to move on. And like what you said, it's like Phil just said in the chat, it's a business decision. I mean, NFL's a business. You got to make the best what you got. So,
Zach Ertz
who'd you guys?
ACL.
Oh, that's not good.
So, well, I'll say this about McCole, and then I'll end that story. And what the Chiefs are going to, I think, in my opinion, you can't have constant rotation in the wide receiver room. So when you find guys that are going to fit, you sign those guys. You keep them around. You always have backups, and you always have depth, and you bring in those draft picks that are going to be able to learn the playbook over time and move forward. But you can't continually have turnover in the wide receiver room. That's a huge mistake, no matter how great your quarterback is, which we know we have the best, but eventually that will catch up to you. So you have to have those guys like a Juju that are going to be on contract. And we mentioned this a long time ago from something that I heard, that he asked for an extension 3 weeks before it even came out. And then it came out a few days ago that he wanted to stick around and wants to be extended and stay with the Chiefs. We already knew that. I mean, he wants to be here. He wants to stick around. He loves the culture. He loves the atmosphere. He loves the team. And he's never been around a team like this. So I believe he will sign a deal with the Chiefs, either most likely to be before March. When I say that, I don't know if it'll be during the season, because Veach likes to look at the numbers. But I do believe, from everything I've heard, he will sign a deal with the Chiefs.
Gotcha.
So why not? I mean, the guy's done a great job. He's picked up the playbook. He's playing very well, playing better. He's playing like he did his first couple of years in Pittsburgh, and that's all we really want. And he loves the team, so why not keep a guy that, I mean, that's really, when you look at it now, you got Travis Kelce and you've got Juju that are the two go-to guys, and then you've got everybody else that can step in like they did today and make massive plays. Everybody had, I think he hit 10 different guys today. So you got to remember that we have guys that may not fit within the system. They may not be here after year 4, but then you got guys that will come in and end up with contracts, because you can't just keep rotating. It's not a revolving door. There's certain positions you can do that with, and there's certain ones you can't. You definitely can't do it continually with the wide receiver, because it will bite you in the long run.
That's fair. So what's your guys' defensive MVP? Oh, okay. Jinx.
Yeah.
JP, go first.
Player, defensive MVP. Man, I think I've already picked Nick Bolton this year as a defensive MVP player, but I think I'm going to do it again if I have already. I think that just shows how important Nick Bolton is to this defense, and the broadcast showed multiple times about his ability to shoot the gaps and to continue to contain players when they are trying to make big plays. We saw the Chiefs did a great job, containing ETN today and limiting him to under 50 yards. Bolton was able to keep Lawrence in the pocket. I mean, between him and Gay, they were causing havoc in the middle of the field.
Yep.
So I'm going to give it to Bolton because I'm always going to give the edge to the guy that wears the green dot. But, man, Nick Bolton, I don't know how this guy ended up going to Missouri and not a bigger SEC school, because he is such an all-star, and I love seeing him on the field. I'm going to give mine to Bolton.
Bolton? Okay, what do you think, JP?
I was going to go with Chris Jones, just because he did so well and he kept everybody contained today, and he really made it easier for the linebackers. But I'm really kind of leaning towards Carlos Dunlap, the guy that didn't get a lot of play time at the beginning of the season. He is an older player, but yet every time he's on the field, he does something great. Every single time, he just does something great. I mean, I would almost split it between the two, but we expect it out of Chris Jones because he is who he is. In fact, right now
Mhm.
he's leading the league in pressures, above Aaron Donald. His percentage wise, right now he's actually leading the league in almost everything above Aaron Donald, which is the first
Mhm.
time he's done that in his career. So you want to give it to Chris Jones, but then I look at a 34-year-old Carlos Dunlap that has stepped up and can play 80 snaps, 90 snaps, and still be just as fresh. So it
Mhm.
just gives me so much motivation. The guy's like a Ferrari. I mean, he's like in perfect condition. He plays very well. He plays hard every time he's on the field. His big ass hands are up in the airs, blocking
Mhm.
passes, doing what he has to do all the time. I just have to give it to Carlos. It's just me.
I give mine to McDuffie. Just continue to have a lockdown corner. I mean, the Chiefs have really tried to find that really lockdown guy. Yeah, we had that with Ward, and he had his moments and stuff. But McDuffie, that's a great find. To see Veach find a guy like that, and for him to be out for several weeks and then come back and play greater than what he has done before, I think he's gonna be very helpful. In the event the Chiefs run into some of these juggernaut teams like the Bills, if they can somehow win the division, or most importantly the Dolphins with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, hey, I feel very more confident with the defense we have, and especially having him as that right cornerback, as Philip and I were talking the last couple of days. So I think it's gonna be very, very helpful moving forward. That's my defensive VP. I'm gonna give it to McDuffie.
Hey,
Yeah,
wait a minute, Carter. I agree with you. New challenge. He says take a shot every time Romo mentions Tyreek Hill.
I would not be able to do this show afterwards.
Yeah. Honestly,
every time he does, it's annoying. It's like, can you just move on?
It's like it's no different than Tom Brady. Every time somebody makes a good play, well, that was Tom Brady-esque. That was Brady.
No, it wasn't.
No,
Tom Brady can't run.
You can't run. Tom Brady's got bricks for feet. He cannot run. He cannot run the ball. He's not playing up to his standard. He has his game. Mahomes has his game, and then there's everybody else. Right now, it's Mahomes and everybody else. It's been that way since Mahomes got into the league. Period. He's outplayed everybody, and he's broken records that Tom Brady hasn't come close to. So now it's the Tyreek Hill thing. Oh, well, Tyreek Hill, when he missed Tyreek Hill, that was like Tyreek Hill. Tyreek, who gives a crap? He doesn't play for us anymore. He does not play here anymore, period. Let's end it. I like Tyreek. I think he's a good guy. He made amends for his mistakes he made by saying that Tua was a better quarterback, more accurate, more this, more that than Mahomes. He knows he was wrong. And now he backpedaled on it. It is what it is. But at this point, we don't need Tyreek Hill to be successful. We're playing better this year than we did last year if we had Tyreek. So there's no discussion. Tony, I'm sorry. I love you, but shut up. Okay, we can move on now.
Yeah. The only other thing, we can go over our score predictions. I'm pulling it up right now and just talk about the believe it or not to see where we sit.
Sounds like a plan.
So we already talked about the Dunlap one. Travis Etienne, we all had Travis Etienne under 100 yards. We had talked previously. They even talked about this on the broadcast. Travis Etienne was on a tear. He had 3 or 4 consecutive games of over 100 yards and was smoking some teams. We kept him under 50 yards. So once again, we see this defense being able to stop the run. And this Chiefs defense does not get enough credit for what it's able to do in the run game. It really is a great run-stopping team, which is just weird for us in Kansas City because this has been, for almost all my life, the Chiefs defense has been good in the pass defense and just been so bad in the run. I'm telling you, Bob Sutton. But the Chiefs have been really good this year, and this is just another example of Chiefs being able to stop a really good running back in the league. And then the one that I absolutely failed on, which was I thought that the Chiefs running game wasn't going to get going, and the Chiefs or the running backs wouldn't have more than 65 yards. They blew that out of the water. They had more than double that. So you guys were both right on that you were right that the Chiefs were going to be able to get the run game going. I believe Pacheco got more yards than by himself. So once again, shout out to the Chiefs, run game. They were able to get going. Any thoughts by you guys on any of those 3, believe it or not, for this week?
Well, I say this, the Chiefs prior to this game were averaged 4.5 yards a carry. Now with this game, they averaged 6.5 yards a carry. And Pacheco was the majority of those carries. Pacheco and McKinnon. So that tells you a lot about where this team's going as far as running backs are concerned.
No, I agree. I think kind of think one thing we'll look at in the future is I'm hoping that Pacheco can get even more involved. But I love to see if Carlos Dunlap can get even more snaps. If they can do this and if they can elevate a couple of players and move some things around, this team's going to be really, really dangerous come January. So
Yeah,
we're almost through the stretch, guys. About halfway. We're over halfway through the season now. So it's a great time to be a Chiefs fan for sure.
Yep.
And you got to think too. Frank Clark coming back next week too. So we'll be able to continue to rotate some guys into that defensive line and keep people fresh. I'll keep saying this: the best offensive line is being able to keep the 5 guys in there the entire game. The best defensive line is being able to rotate 6 or 7 guys throughout the entire game. So the more guys you have to be able to put in the game and keep legs fresh, the better off you are.
And we proved the fact that Wiley is not the answer. With him being out today, our offensive line was almost you can almost say stellar.
And that's an interesting development. We're going to have to watch that and see how the right tackle, because if Wiley loses his starting role, I think that'll tell you what they thought of how. What was his name? I had to look.
His name is Prince. I can tell you right now. Basically the abbreviation is PWT. Prince.
We're going PWT then.
That's basically yeah. We're still learning.
And remember, Niang has been practicing, so
and he's got
really
another week. He's got
about another week
before he can before his 21 days is up. So
yep. So I think you might see Wiley lose his starting position. But I'll leave it at that. I think they dealt with what they had at the time, and they've done that in the past, and it's hurt them. I mean,
sometimes all it takes is an opportunity for a guy to come and step up, and sometimes you don't know what you have until you're in that moment where you're like, well,
that's fair.
He's got to have to. We've got next man up, and then the guy that's been sitting on the bench for a while actually turns out to be better. So
you know what that word's called? It's called depth. Good God, man! Something
right.
Have you ever been able to say the word depth in the Chiefs and associate it and actually mean something other than we don't have any? Now I can say we have the depth. I don't know how to feel about that. It kind of gives me the gigglies inside. I feel like I have butterflies flying around.
Well, I will say this. The reason why that's important, because if you have someone go out, you got another offensive lineman ready to go. If a running back gets hurt, you got someone else ready to go. I mean, that's how you build teams. People all the time will say, well, just imagine if Josh Allen had these weapons. I'm like, look, you can't get mad at Mahomes for the weapons he has. You got to get mad at Brett Veach, because Brett Veach did his job. He made sure to look at the draft, made sure to bring in the right free agents and things like that. When you build a team, you need to have depth, like as JP said, because if you don't have it, your team's going to struggle. And because they have that, they're in a
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, because they have it, they're in a phenomenal position. Because you had guys like Frank Clark go out because of suspension. You have someone to jump in. I mean, you have all these different things. Wharton has a torn ACL. Noddy stepped up, but now we have Saunders who's ready to assume that role. So, I mean, when you have players in the depth and things like that, it's going to help your team out. And that's what we're seeing.
Agreed. I mean, it never fails when you have great guys that are willing to buy into the system and know what their role is, and know that they have to step up at any point and be able to fill a set of shoes that most people couldn't fill. It's really that simple. And we had a Bills fan that said, I absolutely hate playing Mahomes. And I couldn't understand. I said, why? He says, well, I said, last year it was all about, we had the best, Mahomes had Tryeek and he had this. If Allen had that, then, he'd be the best in the world. Well, now we don't have Tryeek. He says, you're right. He said, you guys got a bunch of bums, and I wouldn't say anything. I said, no, I wouldn't call anybody a bum. It's just the fact that because their name isn't mentioned every week, that you assume that they're bums. They're not bums. They're just learning from the best. And you get better when you have somebody that it makes you better. And that's what Mahomes and Andy does. And now you got Matt Nagy that is even making it better. So
I will say this. There's a benefit to having Jags, just a guy. You need players to be there that, whether it's they're not great at one, they're maybe not good at one thing, but they're great at one thing. So to be able, the mark of a good coach is to be able to use a guy for whatever they're good at. A great example of what's happening in Chicago right now, right? Justin Fields has been talked about in a negative manner all year. And then that Monday night against the Patriots, what happened? They used his running ability, and they have not looked back from that. because Justin Fields has came out and he has started running the ball all over teams, and it's because of the coaching there. That's how you know that, you know, a coach, there's a good coach up there because you're using the talent that your players have, and you're not trying to shoehorn a guy into your scheme. You're building your scheme around players. And so that's what Kansas City has started to do in terms of Kadarius Toney and all the newer guys, is that you're building your scheme around the players that you have, and you're able to get your just a guy, your backup guys to be able to come in, step in, and be productive. And I think that's what we're seeing with the Kansas City Chiefs right now, as guys are getting injured, or, you know, with the Frank Clark situation, you know, guys are stepping in or being able to perform on the field with and perform for this team.
Here, I want to put this out really quick. PFWA pool reporter Adam Teicher interview with NFL referee Brad Rogers, the Jacksonville Jaguars at Kansas City Chiefs, November 13th. Question: I was just curious why the flag was picked up on the play with Juju Smith-Schuster, and why was that not a penalty? After discussion on the field, the two officials came in and determined that the defender had set and was embraced for impact and hit shoulder to shoulder. They didn't feel it was warranted it was a use of a helmet foul. Question: so no defenseless receiver either in that case. He was in a defenseless posture. Listen to this: a defensive posture. Now, but they didn't feel that there was any use of the helmet foul on that. Okay, the helmet absolutely was was used on that. So I don't know where they came up with that one. Could the Jacksonville player have been penalized for a hit on the defensive player? He's subject to a defenseless player foul because of the player making a catch. We didn't feel that was a foul because he's hitting shoulder to shoulder. Again, that's what he said. Everybody saw that play. It was not shoulder to shoulder. It was helmet directly into helmet. Then it says, question, correct me if I'm wrong, but the Chiefs cannot challenge that, right? That's correct.
This is why the NFL needs to have some version of like a sky judge, you know, whether you have each, you know, you put an NFL ref inside of a booth on top. And so when stuff like that happens, the guys are able to they're able to make that call, because those refs weren't in a great position to be able to call that. But if you have somebody who can see what we see as viewers, stuff like that's going to get called, and get called correctly. That would also help with like the roughing the passer penalties. You could see what we see on TV, and you could make a real, you know, like use your brain to make a decision and say, yeah, that was this penalty. It's just frustrating when we see it, we all see it, and it's that old saying of like, what do 100 guys in a bar think? Was that a penalty? Was that not a penalty? When 98 out of 100 of those guys would say, yeah, that was a penalty, and you pick up the flag, it's so frustrating. That's all. And
I'll close out with this. This is why NFL officials, referees, or whatever you want to call them, they need to have press conferences at the end of the game, live press conferences, not like what JP just read, just what we see off the sheet of paper. They need to be up there in front of the cameras and everything, and they should also be subjugate to fines too. And another point I'd like to add is this, and I forgot who tweeted on Twitter, but someone said, if you're not going to call that flag during the game and the players call you out on a press conference, they should not be fined at all as well.
No, they should not.
NFL can't have it both ways. You got to pick one or pick the other. You need to have it to where either everyone can say something or no one can say something, because it's just getting ridiculous. They have to put the metrics in place, and they need to have it to where if the refs want to be part of the game, they need to also have to be subjugated to press conferences that are live, like we're doing right now. Because I guarantee you that will stop some of the issues. So we'll see. But there's
no possibility they had that much of a conversation. That flag was picked up way too fast. Way too fast. There's no way they had that long of a conversation. They could have easily held off for a second, had left the flag on the floor, and had somebody else say, hey, yeah, he definitely helmet to helmet. It would have took 2 seconds for anybody to look at 3 frames and say, okay, that was helmet to helmet. But they didn't do that. They picked the flag up immediately and walked on. That's, to me, it's a crap excuse, but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, final thing here I have is our score predictions. We were all relatively within the same margin. We had that discussion where the Chiefs don't cover at home, and that basically whatever you think they're going to score, take a touchdown away, because over Patrick Mahomes' career, he scored half a touchdown less in home games versus away games, and that pretty much came true. Technically, the Chiefs covered because they were 9.5-point favorites. They won by 10, so we were all relatively within the same score frame. So nobody was like completely wrong. But good job to us, I guess, for knowing our football team.
Yeah, it's been kind of a trend for us to kind of not play as I guess we don't score as well at home. I don't know what it is. We don't play as dominant, but we did do very well today. And yeah, we didn't get 30 on the board, but which I was hoping for. But it is what it is. But with that being said, we appreciate everybody joining. And that's all everybody's got. We will wrap this one up for today.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. Well, make sure you give everybody a holler or follow on Twitter. Check out our website, www.chiefs.com, chiefsfocus.com, I apologize. And check out primetimesportstalk.com because we have a lot of good stuff on there as well. We got some more stuff coming pretty quick, so keep your ears open because we got some guests coming on. Thanks, guys.
See you next time, guys.